Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Chris Walsh is the president of the Reynolds and Reynolds Company. He is a 35-year veteran of Reynolds, having held several leadership roles. He says the company is focused more than ever on expanding its footprint in retail automotive, making it easier to do business with, and helping their customers achieve new levels of profitability. Chris Walsh, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, Ted. How are you? Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Chris, a great honor to have you with us. We've got a lot of dealer folks watching and a great audience, and so appreciate all that you do for retail automotive. If I can start out with you as president now at Reynolds, that's a role you took earlier this year. What's in store for Reynolds and Reynolds and its dealers as you look ahead?
Well, a year ago, we started on a path of operating our organization differently. I felt like there was an opportunity for us to partner with our customers in a much different way, to be a more flexible company, to be a company that was easier to do business with. And we're going to continue to do those things. So I think the way we interact with our customers and the industry as a whole is something that is really, really important to me. And certainly our software solutions is the backbone of our business. So we're going to continue to, invest in the solutions that we offer that help dealers be successful and maximize the opportunities that they have to be profitable.
Chris, it's an exciting time in retail automotive. I don't know about you, if I can never recall a time like we have right now, and our dealers have proven to be very, very resilient, I think is the word, over the last 2.5 years. What do you think are some of the positive takeaways for our industry as a whole?
Well, I think that, you just really kind of hit on it. We've seen, I'm 35 years. I think you said you were 40 or 41 years. We've seen lots of ups and downs in automotive and lots of change. But, the industry as a whole, the retailers, as an organization, always seem to find ways to, not just survive, but to thrive. And I think it's a testimony to, the level of leadership that we have at the retail level, at the OEM level, that people are, sometimes we are not as quick to get in front of these things as we would like to be, but we always find ways to be successful. And I think the other good thing that's coming out of it, I think there's been a lot of acceleration that's happened, as a result of COVID and some other things around, what the consumer, really wants and how the consumer wants to communicate and be communicated with and how they want to interact and transact with retailers. And I think that's really caused us to step back and evaluate how we do things and try to find ways to, to be better for the end consumer. I think that's been a real positive.
I would agree. And it seems these past few years, service and parts have taken on fixed ops, a new importance. How important do you think fixed operations is going to be to the success of the retail dealership model moving forward?
Well, I think it's always been vitally successful. We know that, I don't know what the numbers look like now, but traditionally it's always been that the majority of the profits came from the fixed operations side of the business in a dealership, right? And that's always been the way it is. And I'm sure it's still that way. It's probably been diminished somewhat given the inventory model that we're in right now, but it still contributes greatly to the profitability, of a dealership. So I think that's going to continue to happen. And I've always viewed the relationship that a customer has with a retailer. It's kind of like if you think of that infinity symbol, it's that sideways 8, and it basically says the customer is always in this perpetual loop. They buy a car and then they hopefully come in to get the vehicle serviced. You do a really good job taking care of that customer. When they're out of warranty, they don't leave and go someplace else. They stay there. And then you've got a much better chance of retaining, that customer. And we all know how difficult it's become, to retain customers. There's a lot of parity between brands these days. And it's, the difference between cars is not as great as it once was. So I think the difference becomes, the way the customer is treated when they're in the dealership. And a big part of that comes from, the fixed ops side. I think you buy a car, but I think the average customer comes into a dealership, you'd probably know better than me, 4 times a year. So you see that customer on the service side 4x the number of times that you see them on the sales side. So it's just a great opportunity to reinforce, the individual brand of that dealership and why it's important that they stay, in that organization.
And with the focus, like you just alluded to, on fixed, a lot of things have come to light. There's been a lot of discussion here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable about technicians, retention, general retention of employees. And a term that has come up that I had not heard a lot of in the past is dealership culture. And Chris, now we're hearing about dealership culture and its importance all throughout the roundtable. What are your thoughts on the importance of that dealership culture, and maybe an example or two that you could point to?
Well, I think the culture, frankly, in any organization is, critical. We're doing a lot, in Reynolds. Part of what I want to do is change our exterior, but in order to change the exterior, you have to change the interior, as well. And everybody has to be focused on the same thing, which is our customer. And I don't think it's any different, for a dealership. And, it's interesting, I can walk in a dealership, I've been in thousands of dealerships, and, and I'm sure you have too. You can walk in and you can feel when it's a, throw the keys on the roof kind of place, right? It just has a feeling. I don't think there's that many of those out there anymore. But I think that, when a consumer walks in there, what that culture is, translates into how they're communicated to, and, what the feeling is like to get a vehicle serviced or to buy a car. But I also think that, we think of culture, and I just did it, right? I talked about when a customer's in the dealership, but we all know it is extending beyond the dealership now, right? There is, now a culture that exists when the customer's online. So when they're online and communicating with a dealership, and then they come in and it feels different, or it's not seamless, or they're being asked the same questions that they already asked online, it's not the experience that they want. So I think we have to think of, experience and culture as both, brick and mortar, as well as, outside the four walls of the dealership.
Everyone, we're talking today to Christopher Walsh. He is the president of the Reynolds and Reynolds Company. Chris, there's a lot of talk in our industry about possibly some veiled attacks on the dealership franchise model. There's talk of factory direct online sales. With all of the information we see online about EVs coming to market rapidly, do you think dealers are going to be at risk of being cut out of the sales process that they've been in place for over 100 years now?
Well, the first thing I would say is, I am a firm believer, always have and always will be, in the retail model. Primarily just because I think the car business, one of the things I love about the car business is that it's a people business. It's why I've never left it. I love the people that I work with. I also love the people that I get to interact with, whether it's customers or, getting to know people like you or other industry influencers. It's a people business. And I think if you take that away, I think it harms, the brands themselves, whether it's, Ford, GM, Stellantis, Mazda, whoever it happens to be. I think you remove the people part of it. I think it hurts the brand. And because I think people, at the end of the day, it's the second largest purchase that an individual makes, is a vehicle behind a house. I think there's a lot of tension and stress that comes along with that. And I think when handled properly, and you come into a dealership, whether it's online or in store, and you're handled well. I bought a car a year and a half ago in the middle of pandemic, and it was the best car buying experience I'd ever had. It was a younger sales rep, and I can't go into all the specifics. I can't recall all of them, but I just felt so good about the way he treated me and the entire process itself that I can't imagine not doing it that way and not being able to touch and feel a vehicle before you actually sit in it.
It's kind of refreshing, you and I, having been in the business all these years, right, to see a lot of these changes that we probably knew deep down had to come at some point. And like you said, what happened in the last 2-3 years has really accelerated all that and brought it to light.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's, at the end of the day, change is good, and sometimes when they force us to change quickly, that's also not a bad thing. We do have to, as an industry, we do have to evolve. We're always going to be changing. Our company is going to have to evolve. And, dealerships will have to evolve, and I don't think it's bad.
This past year, dealerships have had to evolve again, right? We've been facing this chip shortage now for some time, and likely into the future. Gas prices, interest rates. There's a lot of things that are beyond the dealer's control. What do you think, from your vantage point there, that dealers should be focused on right now, moving forward?
Well, I think certainly focus on the consumer. I think would be the biggest thing they need to do, and to look at their organization. I remember years ago, when I was in the web business, we used to do mystery shopping. You'd kind of go online, and whether it was to make a service appointment or look for a vehicle and just see what happens. Do I submit a question? Do I get a response? And if I do, how long does it take? So that kind of, workflow inspection, I think is something that's really important. And car dealerships have become such complicated, businesses, over the years, where there's so many processes, some of them mandated by OEMs, others, just the way that a retailer happens to run their business. But I think looking at your processes relative to the consumer, putting yourself in their shoes and saying, what's it like to schedule a service appointment at my dealership? What's it like to search for a vehicle, on my website? What's it like to, find out what it would cost to get a particular, to get some service work done, or to buy a part from, what does that all look like? And where are my opportunities to, to remove friction, to make it more seamless, whether it's online or in store? I think that's, a great opportunity for dealers to do. It's something that we're really focused on with, that whole workflow, and how we can, tighten it up a little bit and make it more consistent.
All the things you just mentioned resonate in one word that we're hearing a lot of at the roundtable. It's transparency.
Yeah.
We're talking about transparent processes for the consumer at the dealership level, Chris, now in service and in parts. A while back it was in F&I, it was in sales, but now it's come to the fixed ops side. And I think that's refreshing to see.
It is. And, we have not always been the most transparent company, out there. And it's something that I want to do a much better job with. I want to put the things out there, right or wrong, and let people know who we are. This is an example of that. I'm doing a lot more of these kinds of things. We were a very kind of silent company, in the industry. And I always felt like there was an opportunity for us to tell our story. And we've got a lot of smart people in our organization that know the car business really well, that, have ideas on how we can all get better. And I think it makes sense, to be transparent in that way. Not just in how we interact with our customers, but how we interact with the industry.
And you've got a lot of great dealers that you work with there at Reynolds, and so many best practices. I got to ask you about the FTC in the news these past few months. Federal Trade Commission has been in the news with a proposal of some new regulations for car dealerships on the advertising side, perhaps F&I and product disclosures. Your thoughts on that, and will that ultimately be good for the industry?
I have followed it. I will tell you, I'm as far from a tech guy as you're going to get. So, a lot of the stuff that gets talked about in this legislation is, way above my pay grade. But, things like, multi-factor authentication and data encryption, data disposal, penetration testing, training, all those things I think are really important, to do in this day and age. I think the thing about, ransomware and breaches is that nobody thinks it's ever going to happen to them. It's always going to happen to someone else. And there's lots of stories out there. Every day something happens, maybe not in our industry, but every day something happens. And there's lots of stories out there in automotive of dealers, getting hit with ransomware, and the impact, is devastating, to a dealer. And, when you talk about, three things I think that the FTC safeguards is going to, force dealers to pay more attention to, which I think is really good and important, which is their business data, their consumer data, and how you keep your business running. And I think those three things have become, really critical. And you look at a car dealership and, the volume of information that they have in their name file, the number of consumers that they have, and not just the number. We're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of consumers that they have information on in their system. And I'm not just talking about, their name. We're talking about, PII and sensitive PII information that, that's what people want. And these these hacking organizations are sophisticated beyond words. I mean, I've been educated a little bit on how they work, and their businesses. It's not, a guy in a hoodie in a basement. It's a business, and it's run very, very well, and they're very, very good. So we have to do what we can to protect it. And it's one of the reasons why we made the decision to buy Proton, which is a IT infrastructure and cybersecurity company, because we felt like we've been focused on data security for a long time. And we felt like adding Proton, on top of our knowledge and our resources, bringing in their knowledge and their resources and our ability to scale gives us the opportunity to bring this solution to a broader number of dealers out there, because everyone's trying to figure this out. And it's really complicated legislation. There's a lot to it, and we feel like we can help, but it's something that everyone's got to pay attention to.
Chris, with these last 17 Fixed Ops Roundtables, if you can believe it or not, one of the subjects we have not discussed is that cybersecurity. So at a future roundtable, I would be honored if you folks would share some best practices with our dealers, because that has now resonated to the top, and one of the things that we want to focus on. I wanted to ask you today about mobile service and talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening there. But it wouldn't be a Fixed Ops Roundtable if we didn't invite one of our dealers to come in. And so we have a very respected Reynolds and Reynolds dealer. It's Ed Roberts, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida. And I thought I would let Ed ask you a few questions. Ed, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Good. How about you, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
It's good to see you on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. So I wanted to hit you with a few questions. One, you guys will talk about conveniences and various different things. And I wanted to ask you, as we shift into doing more remote deliveries, I believe it is still a person-to-person transaction, like you said, but not all the time do they feel comfortable coming out of their house or home, because that's their comfort zone, to make that transaction. And we're going to them more with mobile service. We're going to them to sell them a vehicle. Is there things in the pipeline? I hear the term retail anywhere. Is there things in the pipeline that allows us to be able to maybe access Reynolds through a mobile app or something like that?
Yeah, well, Retail Anywhere is our initiative to, basically take all of our products and services and enable dealers to be able to interact and serve their customers, whether they're online or whether they're in store. And service is certainly a big part of that. And on the vehicle side, we certainly have DocuPad Remote and Deal Sign and our e-contracting, which allows you to basically go soup to nuts and buy a vehicle, finance the vehicle, and the dealer can get fully funded online. Now, we're not seeing very much that happen right now, but we want to position ourselves and give our dealers the ability to be positioned for the future. On the Fixed Ops side, we do have some solutions that we offer that will allow dealers to perform remote work. It's a tougher one to get your arms around, just because there's only so many labor ops you can perform, whether it's at a consumer's place of business or at their house. And do they want you performing work, in their parking lot or in their driveway is different. But I do think there's opportunities to do that. And we are looking at how we can do those kinds of things and how we can enable you to do things like that online. I don't know that we have it all figured out yet, but I don't know that any of us have it all figured out yet.
If we think we're backing up, that's for sure. But the idea behind mobile service, just like you said, we can't do everything in field, but the idea is if I can make it convenient for you to do service with me, and you do have to come visit me once in a while, then that's one thing. But it's kind of like going to the hospital. Nobody likes to go to the hospital. Nobody likes to go visit anybody there. They'll do it out of necessity. And it's the same with the car dealer. Even though it's part of something that we have to go through, nobody likes to come in and do it. So when we can take the vehicle to them or come out and do a mobile service for them, then we take away some of those inconveniences and make it.
I was talking to so you just kind of sparked a thought in my head. I was talking to a dealer a couple months ago. I was out visiting some customers, and they happened to have a very large hospital that was very close to their dealership. And he was using, or considering using, I think is a better word. He was considering buying the GoMoto service kiosks. And one of the reasons he was considering buying them was not for his service department. It was to put them at the hospital locations, or to explore the opportunity to put them at the hospital locations to try to capture the ability for people to come to work and be able to schedule service, and they would come get, the vehicle because they had the advantage of proximity to get the vehicle, bring it back, get the work done, and bring it back to their dealership. And I thought that was, a really smart way to think about leveraging technology in a real out of the box, way in order to, it's not mobile service, but it is, in a way it is mobile.
It's pickup and delivery. It's picking up the vehicle from their place of business and bringing it back to them. And another thing that GoMoto that I like about it is the opportunity for express checkout. Yeah. Once everything's taken place, there's no need if they just want to come in and get the vehicle and go, it drop the keys out and it tells them what spot it's in and they can go on about their business.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hit a couple other things. You guys have Shop View as part of your service platform. And for me as a COO, that certainly helps for me to be able to see what's going on in the shop and understand how many that we haven't had in and whatever else. Is there any enhancements coming to that, or do you have any other enhancements coming to any of the platforms going forward?
Well, with ShopView, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to continue to work on, we feel like, I kind of talked about this earlier, thinking about things through the eye of the consumer. Like I want us to think about things through the eye of the consumer and our customers. So in this case, like someone like you, how does he use ShopView and how could we make it a more usable product than it already is? And I think a lot of that revolves around the UI that's out there. How do we make it, kind of prettier? How do we make it more flexible for you? So we're going to continue to work on those kinds of things. We've also learned that for new users of ShopView, how can we make it easier for them to learn it and use it even quicker? So we've come up with templates that they can use just to kind of get rolling. So you have it's already built for you, and then you can modify it as you go. And then the shop view that you have, we're working on giving you the ability to share that with other people, so that you can have more of a collaborative discussion around it. So those would probably be the big ones.
Nice. And I look forward to seeing some of those. Last question. There's a lot of talk about DMSs and whatever else. And if someone is looking to change DMSs, give me a couple of reasons why they should choose Reynolds and Reynolds.
Well, I mean, I think, our legacy in the business, we started automating dealerships in I think 1961. We were one of the first to do it. So I think we've got, a long history in automotive of helping, retailers be successful. I mean, we are firm believers in the retail model. Being transparent, I fully understand that, we have in the past not maybe operated that way and not been as flexible of a business partner as we could have been. And that's a big area of focus for me. I mean, I think that if we can, remove all of those kinds of things and, focus on our customer, the way, I describe it is, I'd like the DNA of our organization to be one that, everybody, and I mean everybody, whether you're selling something, somebody is in our technical assistance center, or you're someone that answers the phone when, a controller or office manager calls with a question about their bill. If every day you wake up and you want to play your part in having our customers be successful, I think ultimately we will be successful. And if you're in that mind frame, that, everything we do is about our customers. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. And we got to recognize that our customers are the most important thing, that we have. It is our greatest asset. We have to treat it that way. We have to respect it. We have to not take it for granted. And I think when we do that, we can open up the doors to talk about our solutions. So we've got a great, set of products that we offer that's used by, thousands of customers, and it's used by some of the largest organizations, in the industry, and it's used to, to power and help their business, be successful. And I want to help. I want to do more of that. And I want to help, customers like you. How can we help you use the things that you have even better, given that the changes that are happening in the world and in our industry? How can we help you use those things better to help you be successful? And I think I could talk about our products, all day long and what they do, but I feel like that kind of an approach feels like the right approach for me.
Well, it sounds like you want to help dealers be progressive, and if we're not being progressive, then we're backing out, and somebody's going to take our business away from us. So, great approach there. Thanks for your time there, Chris.
You're welcome, man. It's great to see you.
You as well.
Ed, I appreciate the questions from your perspective as a longtime Reynolds dealer and a big volume dealer for Ford and Lincoln. And the Bozard organization does a great job in retail and Ed as well as in fixed operations. Chris Walsh, what a great opportunity. And thank you for sharing this information with the Fixed Ops Roundtable today. And Chris, very refreshing as well to hear your answers.
Well, it's great to be here, Ted. And I will say, I've attended quite a few of these. I think these, kind of, educational forums, maybe is kind of what this is. I mean, I think it's so important to the future of our business, whether it's, me just listening or me talking, but sharing ideas. I think this is how, as an industry, we all get better. So I commend you on doing what you're doing and keep it up. And we're glad to be involved and help in any way that we can.
A great honor to have both of you. Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln, thank you so much on behalf of the Fixed Ops community. And Chris Walsh from the Reynolds and Reynolds Company, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.